What's up guys, Jimmy here with another special video for you. Today's video is going to be called All About Winches. The purpose of this video is going to be to explain a lot of the considerations when it comes to buying winches. What kind of winch do you need? Is wire rope or synthetic better? What are the pros and cons of both of those setups? Along with what kinds of recovery gear you should bring along with you to help yourself out of a bad situation, or maybe it's even a buddy, right? Because we know we take our friends four-wheeling, a lot of times it ends up being them getting in the bad situation, and they look to you for, they want you to be the hero to come to the rescue. So we're going to talk today about winches, and hopefully this is going to help you guys decide what kinds of equipment you should purchase, or maybe you already have that equipment and you're just looking to complement it. All right guys, so I'll start this video off by saying that I was, more on the poor side growing up. I wasn't always in the middle class and having sweet Broncos like this, right? So I had to get creative in the ways in which I use things to get the most out of what I had, right? So a lot of times I was running 1,500, 3,500 pound winches and utilizing snatch blocks, okay? So this is gonna be the first thing I'm gonna say that you really need in your toolbox in any kind of recovery situation, a snatch block. It's important to have a snatch block because this can effectively double the pulling power of your winch. So I'm running this 5,500 pound Badlands winch, which you guys will see in a second, on this Bronco, okay? And it's more than enough. You let that winch cable all the way out, it does what you need it to do. But if it doesn't, you can use a snatch block to effectively double the pulling capacity of your winch, okay? So if it's 5,500 pounds and I use a snatch block, right, with a hook or a shackle or however my setup is, now it's 11,000 pounds. This also enables you to pull from different angles, right? So let's say that I have a vehicle, in front of me to the left and I need to pull it to the right. I can run a snatch block to a tree and that will pull that vehicle, right? If I go to a tree over here, it will pull that vehicle this way because of the pulley, okay? So this is gonna be a very important and crucial thing that should be in your vehicle in a time of recovery or whatever. We're just doing work around the farm, okay? The next thing I'm gonna go over is gonna be a soft shackle. Soft shackles have made a huge believer out of me. I wasn't always a fan. You can buy these on Amazon, I think for like maybe $15 for two, and I think it has a 15,000 pound brake strength. But soft shackles are great because, for one, they don't mess up the finish of your recovery hook. If you've got like chrome or you've got a painted surface and you hook this to it, you don't have to worry about it being so hard on the surface as where a steel shackle would, beat it up, knock the finish off, whatever, rattle. And it also creates the probability or possibility, I should say, for a projectile. If that thing, something fails in your setup, that can send that hard shackle flying super fast and kill somebody, which I'll talk about at the end of this video as well. But soft shackles are the way to go. I love these things. They don't store energy. And if somebody gets hit with this because it's light, the probability of this killing somebody is second to none. And also, or highly improbable, I should say. And also, you don't have to worry about losing a piece to this, okay? Because it's only one piece, right? Other than the little sleeve around it. You take this thing, you put it through the knot, and you're complete, okay? It's hooked. You don't have to worry about losing that stupid pin like you do in a hard shackle. When you're using a hard shackle and you're out there, you unhook it, you go to hook it back. Where the hell's the pin? You lost it because you laid it down in the leaves and now it's gone forever. And now that hard shackle is useless. So, huge fan of these. Definitely get them, guys. Next thing I'm going to go over is going to be some kind of material to make a sling, okay? So this is what I bought at a local hardware store. I bought 25 feet of this for dirt cheap, okay? And this is called mule tape. It's pretty abrasion resistant, and it's good for making a sling. So like, let's say I need to pull a tree out of my way or winch something off the trail. I can take this thing, make a loop, right? And now I've got like a sling to be able, and you can also buy slings pre-made, but you can use this to like basically drag something out of your way. But you have to be careful because this stuff does stretch. I think it's 7,000 pound brake strength, but if I hook this around a tree and use it as like a tree saver, now I've got a 14,000 pound brake strength because it's doubled. Okay, so this stuff I would highly advise you get some kind of thick mule tape or something like that to make a sling, or just buy a sling. Last thing I'm going to go over is something that you should keep in your vehicle, but it's not to be used as a to hook a snatch block up or something for winching. Okay, you can use it in a pinch, but it's very dangerous. Okay, so don't say you weren't warned. That's going to be a kinetic recovery rope. Now this specific rope I bought at Harbor Freight. It's 30 feet, and I think I paid around $60. The cool thing about kinetic recovery rope is that you can use it to, like, let's say that I have a smaller vehicle trying to recover a larger vehicle. I can get a run, and actually, this stuff stretches 30%, and it will give a good tug to that vehicle that's stuck and enable me to get it out with a smaller vehicle. So this stuff is great. You probably see, if you've ever watched Matt's Off-Road Recovery, you've seen him utilizing this stuff. It's fantastic, but it does have its purpose. And the reason you shouldn't use this winching is because it stretches, okay? So that should be self-explanatory, but if not, let me explain. If you're winching a vehicle and you're using this to secure your snatch block to a tree and it's stretching, if something is to break, that's going to give that snatch block the potential to become a projectile and be flying at somebody. So definitely don't use that to be, you know, using a snatch, you know, during a winching scenario, we'll say. Only use that to hook to another vehicle. And then keep in mind that your hitches, I'll go over that at the end, you guys will see. But yeah, that's pretty much the tools that you need to have in your toolbox. Hey guys, so I went back and was watching the video. There's one item that you really need to have if you're doing any kind of winching, and I totally forgot to mention it. That is this winch extension rope, okay? Now that has two, I think they're like a 5/8 eyelet ring or whatever on, you know, one on each end. But this is 84 feet of this stuff, and I think it's like a 34,000 pound brake strength. I've actually used this trying to counter lean a tree. I had an F250, an F150, and a Subaru with a winch hooked to one strand of this. It didn't break. So this is serious stuff. I think this one's made by a company called or sold by a company called like Q-Link or Q something. It's on Amazon, but this is 84 feet, and I think I paid maybe $50 or $60, somewhere around there. But this is fantastic stuff, and I have used the crap out of this. So there is never enough winch cable on your drum, ever. I mean, you always need this, especially when you're running snatch blocks. So go ahead and pick you up like a, you know, one or preferably two, but at least one 80-foot or 100-foot section of this 3/8 synthetic winch extension line. Okay, so here's my Badlands 5,500 pound Apex winch. Now the Apex designation just means that it's running synthetic rope and it's got a higher waterproof rating. So I opted for the Apex on this Bronco. Now why did I opt for only 5,500 pounds? I opted for 5,500 pounds because this Bronco weighs about 3,500 pounds. You need to take your vehicle weight, multiply that by 1.5, and that's going to tell you guys how, basically how strong of a winch you need. Okay, that's going to allow for like the tires are dragging or they're in ruts. So that's going to put me at about 5,200 pounds, and this is 5,500. So I'm good with that general guideline, along with the snatch block. When I purchased this Bronco, okay, I had the 360 camera in the front. I wanted a winch that wasn't large enough to obstruct my 360-degree camera. Now this one kind of does. I can show you guys another video later, but it does kind of obstruct the view, but not too much. If I would have went with a 12,000 pound winch, this thing would have a larger drum. It would be larger. It would completely block the front-facing camera. So that's why I went with the 5,500 on this Bronco. That being said, this is a custom setup that I have made to go actually around the sensors on this Bronco. So I think it looks pretty cool, and it has worked very well. I actually just done some drilling and tapping, some fabricating, and made that mount so it doesn't obstruct my parking sensors or the camera, or we should say as little as possible, right? So there are all kinds of winches on the market. I have used Warren, I have used Badlands, I have used, I think, Super Winch. I've used many different winches. There's a lot of differences when it comes to the winches, more or less relating to the runtime and the winching speed, okay, which aren't huge considerations for me. But the more expensive your winch, we're going to say the more runtime you're going to have generally. The longer you can run the winch without letting it rest, because as you're running this thing, it's going to get hot inside of this motor, and that's why you need to allow it time to rest. Anybody that's ever done any welding, it's the same kind of principle. The longer you run the welder, the more you need to let it rest. The higher the price in welder, the higher the runtime generally. So that's a consideration. These Badlands winches have never let me down. I'm not going to give you guys anecdotal evidence when it comes to me having a Badland winch and a Warren, but I have had problems with my Warren, never had problems with the Badlands. So that's just something to think about. So I would encourage you to take this information with you and use it to decide what kind of winch that you think you should need. Don't always break the bank on your winch. I mean, don't go cheap. Don't get some kind of Chinese job off of Amazon because you don't know what it's going to do. But just consider there are different techniques when it comes to winching. And one more thing that a lot of people don't realize, the more line out that you have, the stronger your winch is, okay? What did I just say? Okay, it all relates to gear ratio, okay? So if you have your winch and you've got 5 wraps on the drum, your winching power is only about like 20% of that 5500, right? Because it has a different gear ratio. It's trying to turn a lot more, we'll say circumference, right? There's a larger circumference to winch in that cable. So if you're trying to winch something super heavy, your winch line needs to be out as far as possible, okay? Leave 1 or 2 wraps, that way it doesn't pull out of, out of the drum. There's like a little keeper in there, but just bear in mind that if you buy a winch and you're like, man, this thing is not strong at all, keep in mind that if you have a full wrap on there and you've only let out 3 feet of cable, you're only using like 20% of what that winch can pull. So that's a lot of times why people think a winch isn't as strong, as they expected, because they have several wraps on the drum. You let that winch out, like this Badlands winch, I think it's got 75 feet of cable, or 65. That's significant. You let that thing out 50 feet, you're going to be pulling at that max 5,500 pounds. Okay, so that's just something to consider when it comes to winching gears. Okay, or gearing, we should say. So we're nearing the end of this video, and to be honest, I'm kind of glad because my jaw was killing me where I just had a gum graft, if you've seen in some of my previous videos, so starting to slur a little bit, so just bear with me. But I want to spend the last few minutes talking about something very important, and that is winching safety. Keep in mind when you're running any kind of recovery setup or utilizing any kind of equipment, you can exert a lot of force on something very quickly, and most of the time it happens before you even realize. So I want to tell you guys a story about something that happened to me about, 2 weeks ago. I was using my tractor to drag a tree, and I had some soft shackles hooked up, and I was also using synthetic winch extension rope, okay? It was rated for 34,000 pounds. I had that hooked to a hard shackle with a piece of mule tape slung around a tree, okay? And that mule tape is this that I showed you guys earlier. It's great stuff, but it does stretch. So I was using this stuff, had it slung around a tree about like this, okay? And when all of the people that were helping me rig up the tree moved out of the way, they got behind a wall, I let the clutch onto my tractor, and that mule tape failed. And when it failed, it sent that hard shackle 60 feet flying, it flew 60 feet toward my tractor. Now, fortunately, I had my backhoe raised up in the back of my tractor in front of that hard object. So a lot of times when I'm winching or I'm doing any kind of pulling, I will make sure something is blocking my head from, whatever could fly at me. A lot of that is because a few years ago, there was a gentleman named Ryan Woods. And Ryan Woods was getting recovered by a lifted truck that had a drop hitch. Sorry, he had a drop hitch. Now, drop hitches, they're basically so a lifted truck can tow a trailer, and it lowers the nose of the trailer so that it's not sticking straight up in the air, right? So this guy had a drop hitch, probably for, when he's working or whatever, not off-roading, so that he can pull his trailer. And they hooked that kinetic energy rope, the kinetic recovery rope, like I showed you guys in the beginning of the video. They hooked that to that hitch to recover that truck, the vehicle that was stuck. And because of the leverage that drop hitch created, it ultimately failed and sent the broken part of that hitch flying back toward the vehicle that was being recovered. That came through the windshield, hit Ryan in the head, and killed him dead. Okay, it's a tragic thing, but these kinds of things can happen very easily, just like the shackle story I told you with the tractor. So if you're doing any kind of recovery, make safety paramount, okay? Be proactive and take precautions, because oftentimes, not oftentimes, pretty much every time when an accident happens, no one was expecting it, okay, or no one prepared for it, and that's how it's going to be out on the trail. So always, if you're recovering a vehicle behind you and you're having to jerk with a kinetic recovery rope, pop the hood, right? Pop the hood, put the prop up. That way, at least there's a shield, protecting them from something flying back at them in the event of, something fails. If you're doing a double line pull and you've got this kind of triangle set up and this is your tree you're hooked to and this is your winching vehicle, this is the death triangle, right? I call this the triangle of death because anything inside of this has the potential for death, especially if there's hard shackles involved, okay? So that includes your buddies who are taking cool videos or your girlfriend who's standing in there just oblivious and thinking about what she's going to buy at Ulta later, right? There's a lot of danger out here in these situations, so just play it safe and take the time to put in place precautions, right, or countermeasures, I'm going to call them, and you'll be glad you did. You'll never regret it, right? Hindsight's always 20/20. But thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and post some comments. Tell me what kind of videos you guys would like for me to make, because I have a lot of knowledge up here. It's hard for me to get it out of here, but I have a lot of knowledge up here to share with you guys, and I enjoy making these videos. So take care, guys.